You're watching Inside Automotive with Cheyenne Malone.
Hi everyone, I'm Cheyenne Malone. The Q2 Cox Automotive Dealer Sentiment Index was published recently, and we'd like to show you, take a look at the findings, since this index does provide a current view of dealer sentiment and looks forward to the next 90 days and give some data on that aspect as well. Joining me now to walk us through all of it and all findings, Mark Strand, the Senior Director of Economic and Industry Insights at Cox Automotive. Welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Thanks so much for your time, Mark. So just to give us, our audience, a refresher on the Cox Automotive Dealer Sentiment Index, what is it and what is it showing us?
Well, the Cox Automotive Dealer Sentiment Index, also called the CADSI, is a quarterly survey we do of a representative sample of dealers nationally, independent and franchised. And we ask them about how they feel about the auto retail market in general currently and looking forward 90 days, right? We get an overall feeling of sentiment, but we do kind of drill down into some specific aspects like profit, inventory, factors holding my business back or driving my business.
So what data have you found? It's the spring season, right? We know that sales tend to be up. Dealers tend to like the spring as far as car buying in that season. What have you found overall?
Well, one interesting takeaway from the survey that we see over the years is that sentiment does kind of dip a bit in Q2 as dealers come off that spring selling season and come off of that sugar high when usually a lot of customers are showing up with fresh tax refund cash on their doorsteps. But this particular quarter, we did find that overall dealers are feeling kind of gloomy. They're a little bit negative and feeling angsty about the future, right? I'll anticipate your question and get into why, and it's just generally the level of uncertainty that's out there. We have uncertainty around interest rates and affordability. That's really holding the market back as far as getting some used car customers financed for deals. It's limiting sales, and it's also driving up inventory carrying costs and kind of eating into margins and profitability for dealers. And there's also the little bit of everything is relative, and you think back to the kind of profits dealers are seeing in 2021, it feels like kind of a hangover, right?
I feel like, too, to be fair, anytime we have an election year as well, there's uncertainty on so many levels. So I'm sure that's one of the factors.
Yeah, and that's definitely feeding into it, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a kind of a perception out there that we heard in some of the verbatims that among the public and dealers as well, there's kind of a misperception that the change of administration is maybe going to bring relief on interest rates and affordability a little bit faster. But I think that is kind of a misperception because the interest rate policy is independently controlled by the Fed. But when you get into some of the federal policies around driving adoption of EVs, some of that is in play, and that is on dealers' minds. Maybe the idea that a change in administration will relax or roll back some of those electrification mandates.
Overall, when you view the survey and the results, what really stood out to you?
I was talking about electrification. So one interesting thing, the most interesting thing to me that popped up is, there is a lot of negative sentiment and has been a lot of negative sentiment around dealers, with dealers around electrification, just the kind of the market potential, sales potential, and profitability of the current generation of EVs, right? But they did explicitly call out, most dealers called out explicitly the effectiveness of the tax credits. They're acknowledging that is giving some lift to the market. It is helping them move some of that slow selling EV inventory. And particularly on the used side, it's creating some really compelling deals for customers in certain markets where EV adoption is higher. There are dealers seeing some success selling EVs, and they're attributing it to the tax cuts explicitly. Tax credits.
And when it comes to franchised and versus independent dealers, they're alike in some ways, but different in a lot of other ways. What are the major differences you're seeing in the dealer sentiment survey between franchises and independents?
Well, there were pretty interesting results there. In general, independent dealers are a little more challenged sourcing the cleanest, freshest inventory, right? Dealers have preferential access to off-lease units. They have deeper pockets to bid, but it's been an ongoing story coming out of the pandemic of kind of an inventory shortage, supply constraints on the used side. But new dealers and franchise dealers actually called the used market strong this quarter. So the way the index works, you can have a score between 0 and 100, but anything above 50 means more dealers felt that aspect of the market was strong than did weak. So new car dealers coming out of the spring season, franchise dealers felt they had a good year with used, with a score of 54. Independent dealers came in with an index score of 38, right? Quite a disparity. And I'm chalking that up to some of the things I talked about, but dealers are in a better position to get the inventory, but independent dealers have more exposure to the customers and the households that are most impacted by high interest rates and the kind of increasing cost of living environment we're in with inflation. So definitely a disparity on how they felt about the used market between franchised and independent. Though sequentially, year over year, things improved a bit, but still a more challenged market for independents.
So Mark, if you could recommend one thing that dealers should focus on, based on the information that you gathered from the survey for Q3, what would that be, that one thing?
Well, I might have one thing for franchise and one thing for independent, right? Because the opportunities are a little bit different. But in the market we're in, where there is an affordability challenge, you've got a lot of middle to lower income households kind of staying in an older vehicle. So there's a big opportunity, I think out there to compete in fixed ops and the service lane. There's a lot of business out there to be had maintaining these older vehicles until we get some affordability relief. So for franchise, I would say look for strategies to get some of those people into your service lane, because it also brings the added advantage of it gives you more opportunities for appraisals and maybe to get some of that affordable inventory with a direct purchase from the consumer. So for independent dealers, I would recommend kind of keeping your finger on the pulse of the wholesale market closely. One of the biggest challenges is getting good, clean, affordable inventory. And what we've seen in the wholesale market recently this year is that, with inventory more broadly available, rental car fleets, some corporate fleets are starting to upgrade. They're starting to defleet a bit. And there's elevated auto loan delinquencies out there. And we're starting to see repossessions normalize. There's no crisis going on out there that's going to crash the market, but repossession rates are just kind of normalizing to pre-pandemic levels. And that's creating a little more flow of defleeted vehicles and repossessions in the auctions, and it's we're seeing kind of above average depreciation this time of year, and it's maybe creating some buying opportunities. So those could be sources for independents to look for additional inventory.
Makes sense. Well, we appreciate your insight, Mark Strand, Senior Director of Economic and Industry Insights from Cox Automotive. Appreciate your time today.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for watching Inside Automotive with Cheyenne Malone.